Runway you see in this video as the preliminary report sheds some light on what may have happened. And in Anchorage, new details on an officer-involved shooting that happened on Monday. What police and family members of the person who was shot are saying tonight. Plus, a city hall meeting draws a crowd with homelessness and the plans to tackle it in Anchorage at the forefront.
And a storm is on the way, delivering rain and wind. I'll let you know where to prepare for the stormy weather.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
When I went to Nanwalek the first time, I was like, whoa, this is different, from all the other runways I had landed on.
A preliminary report in the Nanwalek plane crash that left 2 people dead and another injured, now public after its release earlier today. Good evening. A second pilot of a plane that was behind the one that crashed in April, now on record describing the moments leading up to that crash. Johnson Kuhn updates us after speaking with the National Transportation Safety Board's regional chief for Alaska. Johnson.
Beth, in the NTSB's preliminary report, we're getting our first look at the plane's wreckage, as well as details on the communication between the pilot who died, 48-year-old Daniel Bunker, and the pilot of a second Smoky Bay airplane who was flying a few miles behind and reported hearing that something was on the runway moments before last month's deadly Nanwalek Cessna plane crash. In addition to Bunker, 37-year-old Jenny Irene Miller also died in the April 28th crash. A second passenger survived but has not been identified. In the preliminary report released today, the pilot of a second plane just a few miles behind says he heard Bunker state over the radio moments before the crash, quote, "I'm going around, there's something on the runway." Witnesses at the time also reported seeing a dog on the runway, but NTSB's Chief of Alaska Regional Office, Clint Johnson, says that despite those reports and what the second pilot told investigators, there's still no confirmation what was on the runway.
He basically just said there's something on the runway, in essence going around, didn't indicate it was a dog. Where the dog portion comes into it is obviously the witnesses at Nanwalek that reported that, yes, there was a dog on the runway. But again, this is not out of the norm as far as village operations.
Johnson said the wreckage has been moved from Nanwalek to a controlled area in Wasilla, where a further examination will take place in the coming weeks. He says investigations like these typically take around a year to be completed. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
And for a bit more perspective on flying into Nanwalek, this is passenger video that Linda Rourke took. She says that when this video was created, her pilot at the time was Daniel Bunker. That is the pilot who died in last month's crash. And she, even as a passenger, saw challenges with the runway.
And I've landed on runways all over Alaska, interior and across.
After the crash, the Alaska Department of Transportation confirmed the runway is not up to Federal Aviation Administration standards. The DOT spokesperson says the state's been looking into relocating the Nanwalek runway for several years, but did not provide a timeline for the future of that potential project. Well, in Anchorage, the family of the person shot dead during Monday night's officer-involved shooting is now speaking out. Our Georgina Fernandez here with that update tonight. Georgina.
Beth, late this afternoon, the family members of the man police say was the driver have told us he was 42-year-old Atuva Aluila. That they say he was in the car at the time with his girlfriend at the time of the shooting. Family members also telling us today it was a brother of 41-year-old Papula Lipoi, who was involved in the Anchorage police officer's fatal shooting during a officer-involved shooting back in February. The state cleared both officers involved in that shooting. Regarding Monday's shooting, APD has not released any new information aside from that update. The department says the officer-involved shooting happened late Monday night after a car was pulled over for what they call a traffic violation, saying a headlight was out. APD has confirmed there was also a woman who was a passenger inside the car. During yesterday's press conference, Chief Sean Case said officers approached the car, saw a gun, had a verbal exchange, and an officer shot the driver, who was pronounced dead at the scene. What exactly caused the officer to shoot And whether or not the firearm was touched or picked up is still unknown.
It's difficult to see from the video, so that's why we've got to wait for the officers to be able to confirm what they saw.
APD did say part of its investigation process includes an interview with the passenger, and we expect to learn more next week on Wednesday for a press conference on this shooting that APD says it's holding. And we're still waiting to talk with the family members who reached out to us today and expect to talk to them soon. We'll keep you updated. Beth?
After an officer-involved shooting in Fairbanks, spokespersons for both Fairbanks Police and Alaska State Troopers tell our Alex Bengal that mandatory leave for officers who fired their weapons will not impact public safety. Here's this report.
The scene here on Washington Drive is very different from what it was on Monday night, which saw an exchange of gunfire between law enforcement and 36-year-old Thomas Bean, who Fairbanks police say shot at officers with a semi-automatic rifle when they responded to a domestic disturbance. Police and troopers say Bean was shot and killed, and 2 Fairbanks officers received minor shrapnel injuries. Police say they then discovered 29-year-old Jesse Bidgood's body. They suspect Bean had shot and killed him before they arrived. Fairbanks police officers and Alaska State troopers who shot at Bean have been put on mandatory administrative leave, at least 7 days for troopers and a minimum 3 days for FPD officers. During this period, Fairbanks police say other officers have to work overtime to make up for those on leave. But the Alaska Department of Public Safety says that public safety is not affected.
We have plans and processes in place to ensure that 911 calls for service still occur. There's still troopers out in the community. From time to time, we'll bring in troopers from other areas of the state or have our partners at the Alaska Wildlife Troopers assist us with covering patrol duties if necessary.
Both Bean and Bidgood's bodies have been sent to the state medical examiner's office for autopsy, and the Alaska Bureau of Investigations has assumed responsibility for the case. Citing the ongoing investigation, FPD has declined further comment. Alex Bengal, Alaska's news source.
To Anchorage City Hall now, the administration of Mayor Suzanne LaFrance and Mayor Suzanne LaFrance herself speaking on how Anchorage is addressing homelessness. About 30 members of the public went to City Hall to hear exactly what the mayor and police chief had to say about what they're doing to tackle it.
And I know many people, again, are concerned and frustrated. And I'm here to tell you that we are taking action and we are making progress and we are going to continue to make progress. And yes, it's going to take some time.
The mayor says the city is concentrating on 5 different areas. Those are abatement, enforcement, crisis care, shelter, and housing. But some in the crowd voiced concerns, in part saying they don't think things are happening quickly enough. One woman says she's particularly tired of seeing camps creep into neighborhoods.
And just being in the backyards of the residents, near schools, and this is enough. They need to do something. And hopefully this is the beginning of them paying attention to the residents of Anchorage to get something done.
The mayor says the city's largest camp, that's Davis Park in Mountain View, will be abated in early summer, but she was unable to give a specific date for that. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to turn to the weather. We've seen those clouds roll in pretty quickly today in Anchorage. Melissa, what's the latest on this incoming storm?
Yeah, we're seeing some really impressive rain and wind, mainly for the coastal areas, though, here, both south central into the southwest corner of the state and on the way to southeast. Take a look at the radar. Very active tonight. You can see that heavy rain pushing in. Center of the storm is actually closer to Bristol Bay. We're seeing those showers wrapping around that. Not quite to Bethel, but just south of there, seeing active showers all the way into Bristol Bay through the Alaska Peninsula and then pushing into south central. Now, the heaviest rain is actually in Whittier and Portage today. That's where it's wrapping in as this front moves to the north. We're going to continue to see wet conditions from Homer into Seward through Prince William Sound and on the way to southeast as well. Again, as this storm continues to push here further north and east tonight. Now, you notice there is some radar activity showing up here over the Anchorage Bowl, but most, if not all of that, is actually evaporating before it gets gets to the surface. So still dry conditions on the ground. We are seeing the winds again strong around this storm, 54 miles per hour, I should say, in King Salmon, 46 in Kodiak, and up to about 32 in Anchorage. Those are going to stay breezy tonight into most of tomorrow. Again, as this storm continues to push north, we'll also continue to see that heavy rain into southeast as well. I'll have a closer look at your full statewide and extended forecast here in just a few minutes.
Well, before that, the Alaska Military Youth Academy is taking a field trip to the Alaska's News Source newsroom. That's next.
You're watching Alaska's News Source.
Well, this week, Inside the Gates, coming to our newsroom, Quinn White tells us about a special field trip for the Alaska Military Youth Academy.
We got to see the ins and outs of the whole news process and getting to meet all the people that run the place, so it was pretty cool.
There's a lot going on in the Alaska News Source newsroom.
At first, I just thought that you just had to be able to talk in front of a camera and all that stuff, but I realized that there's a lot in the background.
These cadets are getting a special look behind the scenes. From the set.
When I was younger, I live in a village, so all of the time of being in the village, we never had internet, so we would watch this all day. And I just always thought that it was so big, but looking at it now, it just makes it more real life feeling to it.
To the control room.
How they operate, all the buttons, all the cameras. I didn't know it was this big. I didn't know there was a lot of steps to it.
And meeting with on-air talent. These students are getting an inside look at all the career paths available in the world of media.
I feel like maybe if I wanted to be working in this kind of industry, that I would have more of a chance because I could just work, somewhere in the background with helping out and not have to be in a camera all day.
Looking towards the future as these cadets are only a month away from graduation. Quinn White, Alaska's News Source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's News Source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's News Source app.